you can have it. You're the one I wanted one.
No, I'm good. I'll have to take a look at my deal.
So, Leo's supposed to call me tomorrow.
You wanna sign on that? Please.
The clock is slow. Go back to clock. Half a minute. We'll call the meeting to order. Please join me in the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, we're all here. Carrie, we're all here.
Yep.
You got it. Okay. First item is public hearing to allow assisted living facilities in medium residential district. Action to approve or deny. Is there anybody that wants to address that? Anybody here to speak to that? Hearing none, moving on from that to, do I have a motion to take action on this? Public, to allow assisted living facilities in medium residential district. Do I have a motion to approve or deny?
Just to verify, this is for, what we discussed, with the assisted, 12-bed assisted living facility
Planning
coming
and
into.
commissions.
So I make a motion to approve.
I have a motion. Second to the motion.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Next item we have is public hearing to amend the ordinance to regulate trapping and animal safety. Is there anyone here to address that issue? Anyone from the public want to speak? Hearing none. Moving on. Looking for action to approve or deny the amend the ordinance to regulate trapping and animal safety. Do I have a motion on this?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I will second that upon this, the email that Carrie had sent out this morning, one of the bullet points is missing. Well, it wasn't taken out. It's I had it written down, 7.14.2, where we took out the permit part. That is not to be done. This is a copy of what is supposed to be for the
Okay, so
permits.
that's being removed?
Yes, this is the right one.
Okay.
So this is the one that Coyote had come up with, and this was the one that we're carrying forward to
Can you
approve.
second the motion?
I seconded it, yes.
Are you going to go along with that change? Okay. So we have a motion on the floor. Is there any discussion on the motion?
I have a question. Am I missing in here where it talks about the 2 acres, over having 2 acres, or is this the
Right here,
old motion?
7.14.4,
Okay.
exemption.
That's what you were talking about?
Well, and taking the permit out of there completely,
Okay,
where we're not charging, there's no permits for anybody to have.
okay.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that was still in there. that
Sure,
this
yeah.
wasn't. Okay. Question answered.
Anything else? Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
I,
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next item. 2023 audit presentation. You got the floor.
I think that's me. I think I'm gonna steal this spot here. Wasn't sure this was meant for somebody else when I first walked in. All right, so I passed out 3 reports. The big one is the full audited financial statements. And then there's the report to members of governance, but we're gonna focus on the presentation of the audited financials, which is basically just the summarized version of the other 2 reports. Yep, that's the one. So, if you flip into that, the first page should say audit process and opinion across the top. I always like to start out with just a quick reminder on what exactly it is we do during an audit each year. So the audit essentially consists of us obtaining your financial records and information from throughout the past year, 2023. And we perform a number of procedures over this information for the purpose of expressing an opinion on whether or not the financial statements are correct. So basically, we're looking at the transactions in your accounting system, looking at supporting invoices, bank statements, reports from the state, verifying that information, and then that's what comes together and makes up the numbers that are in the financial statements. So based on the procedures that we performed this year, we've given you what's called an unmodified opinion. So that is a clean opinion, and that's the best opinion that you can achieve. So that's the overall result. You did get the clean opinion. The next page here has some other required communications. This is basically where if we had any difficulties during the audit as far as anything unusual, like unusual accounting transactions, or if we had difficulties getting information or anything like that, this is where we would tell you about it. But as you can see from what's on the page here, everything went really smoothly. Carrie did a great job preparing for us and keeping things moving along. In fact, I think this was one of the quickest turnarounds we've had on this audit between field work and actually being here and presenting it. So it went very well.
And we had a little fun too.
Yeah, I heard the team had some fun with you. Okay, next page says controls and compliance across the top. The only items listed on this page are what I kind of refer to as the standard 3 items that we list for pretty much every city that's around your size. So working from left to right, the first one of these relates to audit adjustments. And really what we had for audit adjustments were cash to accrual converting entries. So throughout the year, you basically record your cash receipts and disbursements as they happen. But at the end of the year, we need to record accrual balances for things like what are your accounts payable, what do you owe people, what are your receivables, what's due to the city. You know, some of these year-end balances that we help set up. And that's what that first item and what's discussed in the report is talking about. The next 2 items there under internal controls, lack of segregation of duties. We talk about this every year. Because you have 1 or 2 people here that have kind of complete access to all of the city's finances and the accounting system, there is a lack of segregation of duties compared to what would be ideal segregation of duties.
So just need to be aware of that, try to implement oversight wherever possible, just from a best practices standpoint. And then right below that, just a note that we do prepare your financial statements. Whenever there's a third party, someone outside the city who's preparing your financials for you, there's theoretically a heightened risk that there might be a missing disclosure or some sort of error in the financials that would go undetected. But it's very common to have that situation. I don't have any cities your size that I know of that prepare their own financial statements, so it's very common. And then we also review your compliance with Minnesota legal statutes or Minnesota statutes. The state actually gives us various checklists. We work through them, look at your compliance with how you approve contracts, approve your bills, where do you keep your cash, etc. Everything looked good there. With that, we'll get into the numbers a little bit. First page here with numbers is just looking at the general fund, really big picture. Trend analysis here for 2019 through 2023, and then also the 2023 budget on the right-hand side. Just really big picture comparison to the budget. Revenues did come in over budget by about $29,000 in the general fund. Expenditures were very close to budget, exceeded budget by just about $3,600. And overall, including transfers between funds and everything, you had budgeted for a decrease in your fund balance of about $9,400. Your actual decrease was about $60,000 for the year. So you did end the year with a fund balance of around $865,000. Now the next page, the next two pages actually, take those same revenues and expenses and we break it out into a little bit greater detail. So the first page here is focusing on revenues, and then the next page focusing on expenditures. Now revenues, you can see two categories where the vast majority of your revenues in the general fund come from. Property taxes, and then intergovernmental, or in other words, state aid. Property taxes, very close to budget, just a little bit under, and intergovernmental, you were over budget by about $16,000 on the revenues. You had some additional public safety aid that came through from the state during the year, and part of that went into the general fund. Next page, same layout, breaking down those expenditures into a little bit greater detail. Here, I'll walk through some of the budgetary differences quickly here too. General government is an area where you were over budget by about $35,000. Looked like there were several different factors involved there: professional services, IT, legal, some repairs and maintenance costs that all kind of combined to push you over. Public safety, on the other hand, you were under budget, around $18,000, and then a bit under budget on public works as well. The next page focuses on your fund balance at the end of the year. So you have a policy in place where you're striving to have an unassigned fund balance that's at least 50% of your annual budgeted expenditures. So you can see this ratio over the past 5 years has held pretty steady. It dropped off a little bit this year, but it's still at 133%. So you are well in excess of your policy of 50%. And the next page just shows your cash over the past 5 years to the general fund, just if you just want to know what your cash balance is. You can see that dropped off just a little bit as well, but that can jump around a little bit from year to year just based on the timing of payments for vendor invoices and things like that. All right, so that does it for the general fund. With that, we'll briefly touch on your other funds here. The next page has two categories. It has your fire fund, and then it has your non-major funds, where basically there's just smaller balances or less activity, so those all kind of get lumped together. Non-major fund activity consists mostly of your debt service funds, taxes, and then principal and interest payments on the debt, and then also street improvement expenditures and that sort of thing. But fire fund, you can see overall you did have an increase in fund balance of about $14,000 for the year. And then those non-major funds in aggregate, you did have an increase in fund balance there of about $111,000. A lot of that relates to that $97,000 you see on the right-hand side there, transfers coming from other funds as you were setting aside money in your capital projects reserve. page just shows the cash over the past 5 years for both of those categories. Fire fund has held pretty steady, a slight increase this year up to around $161,000 for a balance at the end of the year. And then your non-major funds in aggregate, about $1,588,000. The increase you see there from 2022 to 2023 is mostly related to just setting aside additional cash in your capital projects fund. Okay, down to your proprietary funds, your water, sewer, and solid waste. First fund we have here is your water enterprise fund. Table focuses primarily on operations, operating revenues versus operating expenses over the past 5 years. You can see pretty comparable to the last couple of years. Overall operating revenues did increase about $36,000. Operating expenses were down about $5,700. Overall, you did have an increase in your net position for the year of around $88,000. Next page has the same layout for your sewer fund. Once again, pretty comparable to previous years. You did have a jump in your operating revenues of around $48,000. Expenses, on the other hand, very similar to the prior year, up just $3,000. So you did have income from operations here of around $75,000. After your debt, interest payments, and other non-operating items, you did have an increase in fund balance for the year of around $3,700. And the next page, last fund here that we're going to talk about is your solid waste fund. Pretty similar to prior years once again. Pretty typical activity here. Overall, you had an income, a loss from your operations of around $6,000. However, you did have a $5,000 transfer in from the general fund and some other non-operating activity here that pretty much left you at a break even for the year in that position. And then we have the cash, once again, over the past 5 years in those three funds. You can see both water and sewer had slight increases. Water up around $109,000 in the previous year. Sewer up around $10,000. And your solid waste fund doesn't have any cash at the end of the year. And then we have two final pages on here that just show your future debt payments that are projected over the next few years. The first page here is focusing on your governmental funds. This is the debt that's being financed by property taxes and assessments. You can see starting after 2026, your payments actually start to drop off every year. You have 3 bond issuances that are outstanding currently, and the final payments on those 3 occur in 2026, 2027, and 2028. And after that, you don't have any debt that's being financed at this time by property taxes or assessments. Same layout on the next page. We're looking at your debt, future payments for your water and sewer funds. You can see after 2030, you've paid off your sewer PFA note. And then after 2034, you'll have paid off your water PFA note. Those are the 2 debt issuances that are outstanding currently. That's all I have. Any questions?
Overall, how do we look?
I think you look good. I mean, I always like to look at that page where it looks at your general fund balance as a percentage of your operations, just because that's a ratio that even a small city can compare to other cities of similar size. And I talked about how you have a policy to keep that at like 50% or higher, and I think you're at like 130-some%. So that's a pretty strong fund balance in general fund, and all your proprietary funds seem to be operating the way that they should as far as positive income from operations, and so I don't really have any concerns.
Thank you.
Yeah.
If I may.
Yeah.
These last 2 charts, I believe it's the last 2.
Yep.
Ryan?
Yes.
Okay. So these graphs here, you said that we only have three, what did you call them, proprietary debts?
So you,
And then these are the years that they're indicating that they'll be paid off.
yeah, so overall, what this graph is showing, so you're on the one that says governmental
Yes.
funds.
Yes.
So in your governmental funds, you have 3 separate bond issuances.
That's what you
Yep,
said.
bond
Okay,
issuances. So basically like 3 different times over the years that you've issued debt.
yeah. Okay.
And so you've been making payments of principal and interest every year on that outstanding debt. And in 2026, you
Mhm.
make the final payment on one of those. So then you can see the next year in 2027, your payments are less than what they were. And then in 2027, you make the final payment on another one of those bond issuances.
Okay.
And then in 2028, you're actually paying off the third one. So by 2029, you won't have any debt remaining that's outstanding. You won't have any more bond payments to make from your governmental funds. So not water and sewer, those are your other funds, your proprietary funds, but
Mhm.
like your normal governmental funds that are for the debt that's being financed by like taxes and assessments. So they'll be fully paid off by 2028.
I just wanted to make sure I was hearing that right.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying that, Ryan.
Yep.
And then, if I may,
Sure.
sorry.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Getting back to the second one.
Yep.
Can you kind of clarify that one a little bit as
Yep,
far as
yep.
this graph is concerned?
Yep, so same concept here. In your proprietary funds, which is your water and sewer and your solid waste. But your solid waste doesn't have any debt, so we're just talking about your water and sewer funds right here.
Mhm.
These are the future payments that are required each year in your water and sewer funds for debt. So, looks like you're paying each year around $350,000 of debt payments every year until 2030.
Mhm.
After 2030, one of those 2 debt issuances is going to be fully paid off, so that one's gone. But then you'll still be making payments on the other one. Payments on that one are going to be around, it looks like $200,000.
Yep.
And you have to make payments on those until 2034. And then that one will be paid off as well. And then that's it for debt in your water and sewer funds. So the first payoff, that's your sewer fund. And then the second one in your water fund drags out a little bit longer. Does that make sense?
It does. Thank you
Yeah.
for clarifying that.
Anything else?
Thank you for your time in these lovely handouts. Do you need them back?
No,
Okay.
no, and if you ever just want PDFs in the future, we can certainly do less. I just, assume that you want the hard copies, so.
Well,
That wasn't my decision because,
mhm.
That's what we've done in the past.
yeah,
Sure.
I
Yep.
said, yeah, they need reading materials.
Yeah, some light reading.
Mhm. It's very interesting. I like how it's broken into booklets here. Thank you for what you've done and your time spent on this.
Yeah, for sure, thank you. And like I said, it went very well this year. Carrie did a great job for us. It was really good to work with, so, yeah.
Do you have any recommendation of changes that we should make at all?
Nothing that comes to mind right off the top of my head. I see the numbers side of it, and I can tell that things seem to be going well from the numbers side of it. And from what I hear from Carrie, things are going well in other areas too, so that's the extent of my purview, I guess.
And the city clerk treasurer could always use more money.
Well, sure.
Good.
I think I'm done.
Anybody else have anything? Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah.
You sticking around for the rest of the meeting?
I think I gotta make bedtime for the kids. Gotta get back.
The Dairy Queen across the street.
Yeah, that's true. That's
Or-
true. I'll grab one of those on the way out.
Yeah.
Okay, the next is action to approve audit and financial statements for 2023.
I will make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I will second that.
Any discussion on the motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Moving on, next, any additions or deletions to the agenda?
Is this where we needed to add, oh no, no,
Sorry, the cleaning to item.
Cleaning.
Public
D,
Works.
yes.
Yeah, thanks, Ronnie.
Thank you.
Thanks again.
Don't
Safe
forget.
travels.
Okay, moving on. Next item is consent agenda. Under there, we have A is the claims, B is minutes of the regular March 11th meeting, and C is minutes of the March 21st special meeting. There's a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Is the page 21 part of the consent agenda?
Page 21 and 22.
Okay, so
Special meeting
just,
minutes?
and I think we can approve it, maybe subject to this change, but just for clarification, I think on page 21, Carrie, under 3,
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm the one that amended the motion. Should we look back on that or just?
Yeah, not me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yep.
was, yeah, you're right, Nikki.
Very minor, but just
Yep.
for clarification.
Nikki?
Yep. And that's it for me.
Good eye.
Amendment.
Thanks.
And we'll get that changed then before I put those to the press. So Nikki had the amendment, and were you a second, or is the second correct in there?
She made the motion, Pat seconded,
Yep.
I amended it.
Yep.
And I think April seconded then.
Mm-hmm. That's how it went.
Nope, Pat seconded it.
So it's just yours and mine's name switched around on the amendment.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. That's the only change then? Okay, motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion on the motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Next item, Fair Board. Temporary liquor license permit, page 23 to 26. Let's see, and we're, next, there are 2 items on here. Approve the temporary liquor license and to approve / deny $5,000 donation request from the Fair Board from the 10% funds.
If the fair board is here, should we give them the opportunity, or should we, if anybody has questions for them, or if there's anything that either of them would like to say?
I think they'd like to both speak.
Turn to the president.
Yeah, okay.
I think you all
Yes, they did.
received this letter. I hope maybe you've all read it.
You got-
Kristen was planning on being here by herself tonight, but I was able to get off work early and come, so. Anyway, you want me to read the whole letter? It's kind of lengthy.
They should have a copy of
Yeah,
it.
no, you don't need to read it.
They all have it.
They all have it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you've all read it. I guess just kind of overviewing, we're applying for as many grants as we possibly can, and state offers what they call the Agri grant and the Legacy grant. Just about every fair in Minnesota gets these grants if you apply for them. Our fair has not applied for it, correct me if I'm wrong, since it's been over 10 years, I think. So we applied for it and we got it right away. But here's the thing, it's a lot of paperwork, but whatever you apply for, the monies have to be spent for certain things. So $10,000 is for Agra. We bought a new horse arena so we could bring our horse show back. That's kind of a big thing for Friday. We didn't have it last year. There was a lot of disappointed people with the horse community. They're happy now. We put together a group of volunteers to put on the show. The other part, we're trying to fix up the barns inside. And yeah, with the state, you have to follow through. You have to turn in invoices and prove what you actually spent it for. The other part was the legacy grant, and that covers pretty much entertainment. That was $3,000 some odd dollars. So I think the total we got from the state was $14,000 some odd dollars. But we can't use those for any other expenses. I mean, we can't cover day-to-day expenses. We can't just use it as we please. We've applied for other grants, and they are very specific too, what you can use them for. Most of them want to be used for ag-related or 4-H related. We're trying to, how would I say it, make the fairgrounds what it used to be. I think a lot of us that grew up around here, it used to be something to look forward to.
Yeah.
We haven't had a carnival in years. To get a carnival right now, it's going to cost between $20,000 and $30,000. Now, when we were handed over the Fair Board in Marseille, we were involved with June Fest or MCO. They wanted us just to take it, but we couldn't really do that because if you're not an ag association, you are no longer a county fair. And we don't know exactly what would happen to the property, so we went through the correct channels and came up with a new board and knew absolutely nothing about what we were getting into. It was painful. There's a lot of rules with the state you're dealing with, a lot of deadlines, and we had no money. They handed us a cashier's check for roughly $800, and throughout the year, I think we had $500 to $700 in delinquent bills that kept coming forward. So this happened like a month before we were putting on last year's fair, and we scrambled, we did it, but it wasn't great. But we're trying to make it improve every year, and we're just coming to the city to see if there's support, interest to make it better, to make it grow. And sadly enough, it takes money to do that. And the Lincoln Area Business Association has helped out, the Motley Lions have helped out. A lot of people have been very generous, but we just don't feel like we should take huge risks right now to hire a carnival without a little bit of financial backing, because we could go backwards in a hurry. But we have our meetings once a month, first Tuesday of the month. We'd like more volunteers. We'd like people from the city to show up just to keep in the loop what's going on. And yeah. But I guess at the last meeting, we just thought we'd ask if there was funds available for a donation of up to $5,000 or whatever you feel comfortable with. Do you have any questions?
I do, if you may. So you come up with the $5,000 up to, you said up to $5,000?
Well, that's what we'd like, but we'd take anything.
Yeah. So, and this donation, if, upon approval or whatever, what is it that you're gearing towards putting it for? Like, is it gonna go towards the $30,000 that is gonna go towards the carnival? Is it gonna go towards vendors?
This year, a carnival is not gonna happen.
Okay.
So the process you have to go through to get a carnival has to start now for next year.
Okay.
Hiring a carnival seems like it should be really easy, but it's really not.
Mm-hmm.
They're very, how would I say it, cliquey community. They got a bad taste for Motley years back. And they all talk. I think a lot of them are related. And we've been trying to mend those relationships. Currently, Kristen went with my wife Stephanie and one other fair board member to the convention that they hold every year down in the cities, and that's where they all meet, and it's pretty interesting. I mean, that's more or less where you make your deals. That's where you hire everybody. And the last year we tried to hire a carnival, and more or less, oh, you're from Motley, and basically click.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't know what happened in the past. I don't care. We're just trying to move forward
Right.
and try to
Build it back up. And
build a relationship, because if you do build relationships with like carnival contractors, like Bodina for instance, they put zero money down. Their carnival shows up every year. They settle up at the end. If they came to Motley, they would say,
Pay us first.
we want 15, 20 grand down and we'll see what we can bring, you know. That's the risk you take. So we have been talking to other fairs, trying to figure out who to hire, who to trust, because there's no guarantee they're even gonna show up, you know, that's the scary part. But they know the good people, they know the ones to hire, and other fairs have been very helpful with that. But you're gonna have to build a relationship, it's gonna take a few years to do that. But I think most people in the community would like to see it what it used to be, if we can. Something to look forward to. June Fest, or MCO, has been a great help to draw people to town that weekend, I mean. And make it something that's an annual event that's great, you know. But our fairground needs a lot of fixing up. I mean, when you drive into Motley, that's the first thing you see, you know, from that end, and it's kind of tattered looking, and we've been trying to do what we can. So the 5,000 basically would be for fixing buildings, you know, doing the necessary work. Overhead, I mean, there's a lot of expenses you don't account for, and we don't want to be financially in the hole coming into a year every year. And there's been a lot of generous people that have helped, but you can't always depend on them either. So we're just looking at all avenues of generating revenue that we can, you know, and if everybody gives a little bit, I think we can make it work.
So are you guys, you are part of the Egg Society, correct?
We are the Egg Society.
You are the Egg
You
Society.
have to-
Association.
We are the Egg Association.
So
That's
Morrison
exactly
County
right.
has the Egg Society, which is Little Falls Fair. The Morrison County Egg Association is the Motley Fair.
Okay.
Because you have to have that egg association to be a fair.
Right. Yep. That's the only way you can get the state funding. Which we didn't know before, that it has to be for specific projects, you know. It's kind of the learning curve of it all. If we, at the end of the year, if we don't turn in invoices for exactly what we said we were gonna do, and everything balances out, they could deny our payment. They gave us $5,000 as kind of a working capital down, but if it doesn't balance out at the end of the year with what we put down, then we would be denied, you know, the rest of it, so.
And just for clarification, you guys are not a 501c3, or are you a 501(4)? Or what is the term on that, Carrie?
We are, according to the Secretary of State, a nonprofit.
Okay.
We're registered as a nonprofit in Minnesota. We're not a 501.
Okay.
Yet, we're working on it currently, because there's a lot of grants that you can apply for. That's one requirement. So, there's a vast amount of grants, it's just if you want to apply for them. And that's our other avenue if we are. But it's gonna take us probably till fall to get that done, the way it
But we
sounded.
do go through LEAP.
We can go through LEAP on some of it, yes. Yep.
Yeah, the 501c3, and then I think it's a 501c4 is for like festivals and stuff. I don't know if that fits into your 501c planning and is easier to grab than a C.
Well, the thing with the 501(c) is like, for instance, Trident. They will pay their employees to come help you as a donation if you are a 501(c). But if you're not, then they won't, you know, so they could have 20 people that would say, hey, we'll come help at the fair today. They're being paid and they're happy, you know, but it helps us out too.
Yeah, and I was just looking at like the league, and I think Carrie and I had a discussion too, what the fair board had to meet for us to donate funds, and it sounds like they meet both of them, being the nonprofit and part of the association, and then it also has to be held within the community, which it is, so.
Carrie, do they need to be a C 501?
I just handed out my papers to April.
I have it here, I have the information here.
So in theory, are you guys hoping that, say in a few years, it does pay for itself? Once you get it built up a little bit?
To a 501.
Yeah, that's our goal, but you know, it's.
Is that doable, kind of?
That's the
you think, or-
501c3.
I think it is, like,
Okay.
believe it or not, like the demo derby generates a lot of funds in a short period of time, you know, that's a great thing. We're working on possibly like a rodeo, not necessarily during the fair, but, because they take a lot of parking.
Yeah,
We struggle with parking for the fair now, and I couldn't imagine getting a rodeo in at the same time. But we need to have more events than just the fair in June, and then
Right.
shut it down. You need to have a rodeo maybe, you know, a fall demo derby, you know, other events that generate funds, because a rodeo could produce as much or more as a fair, probably
Sure.
more, if it's done right. But they're also expensive to get in.
yeah,
A 2-day rodeo is gonna cost you between 20 and 30,000 also. And the way you make money on those is get big sponsors to cover the rodeo, and then everything from there on out is profit.
sure.
That's the way most of them do it. If you don't do that, you will probably lose 10, 15,000, you know? But, and the thing with that is it takes people to go pound the pavement,
Sure.
and
What did that say?
the volunteers is the biggest thing.
Okay.
Pretty much 501(c)(3) is what it looks like.
This is information Carrie you need 501.
Yeah, I've read through that.
Yeah, see, the 10% funds specifically speak to 501(c)(3) or 501(c)(4) festivals.
Sure.
And I think I just got June Fest paperwork from the state that they are 501(c)(3). I think it
Yeah,
just came in the mail today, I think. I haven't had a chance to look at it.
But when you go on the League of Minnesota Cities website, it states that community events like a fair, we can fund that. But you're saying not specifically out of this fund, maybe?
Well, the League of Minnesota Cities has nothing to do with the 10% funds, basically, because most cities don't have those. The 10% funds are the funds that come from the gambling.
Yeah.
And, I mean, you mentioned LEAP, and I think you, tell me exactly what that is, one of you.
LEAP is an avenue for organizations like us. They receive it,
And then they
file it, they are. you
They
know,
are the 501(c)(3) for you.
Right, and then, you know more about it, Bruce, than I do, but they take care of all the filing and everything like that. Because a lot of people aren't 501(c)(3).
Is there a cost to that, to the organization?
It's not, it's pretty minimal.
Consult with an attorney, I don't know.
Might be
I know you
how
still
we
have
can
that
get
one.
out of, I mean, using the 10% funds is going through an avenue that
I
way.
thought we could.
Yeah, sure, we have.
Sure, it's on-
Right, yeah.
Could not.
Good.
It's illegal, I have money laundering.
I know. I know. I was a gambling manager once, you know,
Okay.
but,
But then,
Well, there seems to be a
June
little
fest
confusion
is-
as to whether we can or cannot. So if the motion is made on, to donate the money, it would have to be conditional upon we're permitted to do it.
And how do we find that out?
Consult with the city attorney,
City attorney?
right? No? You
The same
don't
stuff
think we need
happened,
to?
like he said, for June Fest.
I don't see where we
Before have to
can.
be a 501c3.
right.
Yeah.
It fits into the gray area
Yeah,
also
it
because
does.
it's for youth.
Right.
I mean, there's a thing in there
Yeah,
that,
if it's for youth. then-
yeah,
Yes.
under 21, well, there's a 4-H and there's this and that that
Mhm.
is all
See-
incorporated in that.
June Fest wasn't always a 501c, and they
They
used
use LEAP,
LEAP
Yeah.
before.
yep,
So
that's why I
Yeah.
was
So
familiar with
Carrie,
it.
you think it'd be better to donate to LEAP and then they pay them?
I think so, I mean,
Yeah.
that will just clear up all the questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, it kind of fits into the gray area.
Yeah, we would donate it to them with LEAP being their fiscal agent, that's what it is.
Right.
Okay.
Mhm.
I'm wondering what the council thinks about the amount, 5,000. You know, just what anyone's opinion on that is. It sounds like they're getting their feedback on the ground and,
Absolutely, and if, I mean, this is my, 6,000 is going to June Fest already, so they're kind of hand in hand, really. I mean, you get, it's, 5,000 is the max that they're asking for, and if we're giving 6 to the June Fest, and if we did, like what you said, through LEAP, I don't see I would make a motion to approve this. On the condition that it's through LEAP.
You're making a motion to approve
Up to,
the temporary liquor license and the $5,000, providing this, we're permitted to do so.
yes.
Okay. I have a motion.
I will second that.